Hey everyone, welcome to Chapter 18, Process Costing. So in the last chapter we did job costing, and so that was we took something like a mechanic shop where somebody comes in, have their car repaired, work on the transmission replaced, and so as we're tracking the cost for that, we can measure how many labors the mechanic put, or how many hours the mechanic puts in. We can know what parts go into that job. And so it's really easy to know what the costs are for that job in particular. And so job order costing is for stuff that is items that are very unique, so you can identify one from another. But in process costing, we have a lot of items that we can't identify one unit from another. If we're producing gasoline, if we're making cereal, these mass production type of things, that's a continuous process. And so where we have units that are indistinguishable for another, if we're making Honey Nut Cheerios, we don't assign costs for just one single Cheerio. It'd be a lot of work. And so with process costing, we're basically, what we're doing is at the end of the month, we're kind of drawing a line in the sand that says, okay, hey, as of this point in time, we've finished so many units, but we also have so many units that are still in process. And so we're going to be able to assign cost to everything that's done, and we're also going to assign cost to everything that's not quite done. And we're going to do that with a concept called equivalent units, which simply put is just, hey, we're a certain percentage done with these goods. Maybe we have, so if we're doing Cheerios, at the end of the month at midnight, we're going to have so much batter that's there, that's maybe just flour. Then we're going to have so much that has, all the ingredients added to it, but hasn't been formed yet. We're going to have so much that the Cheerios are made. We're going to have so much that, maybe are baking, and then so much that are just getting ready to go in a box. So there's all these different levels of of completion along the way. So let's just go ahead and jump into the first problem, which is 18-3. And so in this problem, so we have Domino Foods manufactures a sugar product by continuous process. We have different departments. We have a refining department, a sifting department, and a packing department. And then it goes along to tell us, hey, during the month of, whatever month we're in here, how much direct materials were applied, how much direct labor was applied, how much factory overhead was applied, and it also gives us our beginning and ending balances. And then, so it asks us to journalize the process as the costs are moving through the department. So as costs are moving through the department, they're going to move it through in three different ways. They're going to move through direct materials, through direct labor, and factory overhead. So the first thing we want to do is show the direct materials going into that department. So it says that they had total direct materials of 372,000. So we're going to increase our work in process inventory account, and we're going to take that out of direct materials. The next step is we want to apply direct labor. And so it says that the direct labor applied was 143,000. So as we apply direct labor, we increase our work in process, and then we credit wages payable. So now for factory overhead, it says that there was 98,400 applied, and when we apply overhead, that is going to be from the factory overhead. And so the next part of the problem, it says we have to transfer. So once we're done in the refining department, all that's going to go into the sifting department. And to figure out how much goes in, it gave us the information to do so. So it gave us what we started with, it gave us what was applied, and gave us what we ended with. So if we just take our beginning balance, add in all the additions, subtract out the ending balance, we'll get the total that was transferred out. And so in this case, it's going to be $614,400. So we increase work in process for the sifting department, and we take it out of the work in process for the refining department. In this next problem, 18-4, so what this asks us to do is we're going to apply factory overhead. And so as we go through a period and we apply factory overhead to a process, it's a lot like job costing. Is that first what we do is we actually come up with an estimated factory overhead rate, and we apply it based on estimates. So as we're incurring direct factory overhead cost, whether we're paying the light bill, paying manager salaries or something like that, so that's factory overhead incurred, and so that's going to increase our factory overhead account. But as we apply factory overhead, which is taking it out of the factory overhead account and putting it into our inventory accounts, into our work in process, we do that on an estimated basis. And so this problem is going to kind of run through that. And so it says, what is the predetermined factory overhead rate based on direct labor cost? So to calculate that, we take what we think is going to be the total factory overhead cost, so our estimated factory overhead. And then we divide that by our driver. And so our driver in this case is going to be direct labor cost. So not direct labor hours, but direct labor cost. So that's going to be this $105,000. So what this is saying is that, for every direct labor dollar incurred that we actually happen during the year, we're going to apply $1.40 worth of overhead. So, as we go through increase our work in process account, if we apply $1 of direct labor cost, we're going to apply $1.40 of factory overhead. And so for part B, it wants us to journalize applying factory overhead to that production process. And so to do that, we find our driver, which is direct labor hours applied. So that's going to be $12,000. And we're going to do it on a 140% basis. So during the month, we're going to take factory overhead out of the factory overhead account and into work in process for $16,800. Part C so it wants us to figure out, hey, what's going to be the balance in our factory overhead account? So as we went through the month, we increased the factory overhead account by what was actually incurred, so the checks that we actually wrote. And so in this case, it's going to be $17,050. Then we decreased the factory overhead by what we applied, so what we took out of factory overhead and put it into our work in process. And so in this case, it was the $16,800. So we increased our factory overhead account by $17,000. We decreased it by the $16,800. And so at the end of the period, we had $250 left in the account. So since we had dollars left in the account, in a perfect world, it would have been, exactly even. So what we did is we didn't quite apply enough. So we under applied factory overhead for the period. All right,